Good afternoon, friends. Coming to today's topic, intertrochanteric fractures of femur. This is the most commonly encountered fractures, most commonly in the adult age group. So, coming to introduction, it's a fracture occurring in the area between the greater trochanter and lesser trochanter of the femur. This area represents the transition zone from the femoral neck to the shaft of the femur. So it is characterized by dense tubercular bone that helps in transmitting the stress from hip to thigh. As you can see on the right hand side, there is a transition line, that is a fracture line you can see from the greater trochanter to extending from greater trochanter to the lesser trochanter. So coming to the basics anatomy, you will be having the major muscles which will cause the which will move your limbs range of motions. So flexion caused by psoas major and iliacus, extension by gluteus maximus and hamstring muscles, adduction by adductor longus, brevis and magnus, abduction by gluteus medius minimus, medial rotation are by tensor fasciolata and anterior fibers of gluteus medius and minimus. Lateral rotation are obturator internus, obturator externus, superior inferior gemelli and chordatus femoris. In this picture you can see the muscles, the very important muscles which are attached on the greater trochanter and lesser trochanter, where the red denotes the origin and blue mark denotes the insertion of the muscles. Coming to the etiopathogenesis of this fracture, most commonly encountered in the older patients following by low velocity fall. It is encountered in our age, in the young age people also, but it is in young age it is very commonly encountered in high velocity traumas like RTAs. In elderly, the fall causes are the fall oriented such that person lands on directly on the hip. This may be because the person may have lost his protective reflexes, or it may be inadequate. Less shock observers and pathological fractures when the patient is having osteoporosis or osteomyelitis. Coming to the clinical features, there are many clinical features. The first one, the patient comes with is pain. He might also complain of difficulty in standing or sitting, or inability in walking, and he might notice swelling over his thigh region and the hip joint region. There may be ecchymosis, tenderness. He may also notice a shortening of the limbs. There is external rotation deformity. When he sees attitude of the limb when he comes to hospital, there will be attitude of flexion, abduction and external rotation, that is Faber. And when you try to move his limb, it will be painful. Most common of the time you should avoid doing the movements. Coming to classification, there are most of classification, and some classifications are here, that is Boyd and Griffin, Evans classification, AO or Muller's classification, modified Boyd's classification, Jensen and Michelson's modification of Evans classification, and Tronzo's classification. So Boyd and Griffin classification, which is very important, all should know. There are 4 types of fractures. These fractures are based on the region where the fracture line lies and the plane at the where the fracture line lies and the plane of the plane of the fracture. It helps to decide the type of surgery needed and to predict the prognosis of the intervention. So type 1, a single fracture line that will extend from the greater trochanter to lesser trochanter, that is along the intertrochanteric line. This is a stable fracture. As you can see, there is no displacement over here, no second there are only one fracture over line passing over here. Here in this type 2, you can see a fracture line along the intertrochanteric line, but you can see an additional fracture line seeing in the coronal plane, or you can see that you can tell it posterior medial communication. This is unstable fracture. Type 3, here you can see the fracture line at the level of lesser trochanter and shows subtrochanteric extension. Fracture extends from the lesser trochanter, that is on the medial aspect, to the lateral aspect of the shaft of the femur. This is called as reverse oblique fracture. It is an unstable fracture. Type 4, the fracture lies along the intertrochanteric line with subtrochanteric extension in at least 2 planes, that is sagittal and coronal plane. You can see biplanar fracture here. It is an unstable fracture. Subtrochanteric fracture we can tell up to less than up to 5 cm below the lesser trochanter. Comes to Evans classification. Evans classified into 6 types, and he classified it based on stability of the fracture, displacement of fracture segments, and the number of fracture segments. This helps in determining the extent of reduction that can be achieved following surgery. Evans classification type 1. He classified as 2 fragment fracture, but this fragment is undisplaced. Type 2. 2 fragment fracture but displaced. Type 3. Here he classified it as 3 fragment fractures. As you can see, there is 3 fragment fracture. Displacement of greater trochanter is seen here with no posterior lateral support to the greater trochanter. Type 4, 3 fragment fracture in which you can see there is a displacement of the lesser trochanter and there is no medial support. Type 4, a combination of type 3 and type 4 where the greater trochanter is fractured and lesser trochanter is also fractured with no support for both. And the last 6th one is reverse oblique fracture. What are unstable fractures? Certain stable fractures and certain unstable fractures. What are unstable fractures? Posterior middle cortex communication fractures, lateral communication fractures, reverse oblique fractures, subtrochanteric extent fractures and irreducible fractures. All these are unstable fractures. What are the investigations that you do? First of all, the basic investigation is X-ray. So we take a X-ray with bilateral hip joint AP view to identify the type of fracture. Then you see the lateral view also to see whether there is any posterior middle comminution. And then you take a X-ray in traction and internal rotation AP view so that you can identify the displacement and impaction. If impaction is present, the anteversion can be known and to assess the extent of reduction possible during surgery. This is the X-ray, classical X-ray showing the intertrochanteric fracture at various levels. Next, coming to treatment. There are 2 types of treatment: non-operative and operative treatment. Non-operative treatment is mainly for the elderly patient with severe comorbidities carrying risk of fatality during or following surgery, or patients who are non-ambulatory like physically handicapped, hemiplegic, paraplegic patients not filling for surgery. So 2 types. One is early bed to chair mobilization, the other is reduction with traction devices. Who will come under which class? We'll see. Patients who can't tolerate pain, ambulation is delayed. This approach do not attempt to treat the fractures. Patient learn to live with the residual deformity. It aims at preventing the complication of the prolonged recumbency. Reduction with traction devices. Here, the main aim is to achieve the limb in normal anatomical position. So, under GA, we take the patient to OT. Under GA, we do close reduction and we apply hip spica. So, we will apply the hip spica, we will do skin tractions or skeletal tractions. When we take to OT, we will put skeletal tractions. Skeletal traction we can put 2 types, that is upper tibial or lower femoral pin traction. Then we can put derotational boot also. Towards the right hand side, upper side, you can see the derotational boot. Left hand side you can see the skeletal traction, and down you can see skin traction. Here the body weight, the weight that is suspended over here is 1/10 of the body weight. What are the complications if you are not treating the patient? He may go into decubitus ulcer, malunion, UTI, joint contractures, pneumonia, thromboembolic complications, difficulty nursing care. Coming to operative treatment, we can treat the patient in 3 ways. That is, we can operate the patient with plate constructs or intramedullary devices or prosthetic orthoplasties. What are the plate constructs we have? That is impaction class, dynamic compression class, linear compression class and hybrid locking classes. Impaction classes are fixed angle nail devices. Dynamic compression plates are sliding hip screws made of plates. Impaction class, it is fixed angle nail plate device. Here the angle of this plate is already fixed. You can see 2 types, that is Smith-Peterson nail and Gevart nail. Description: these are the first implants to be successfully used. It consists of triangle nail fixed to a plate at an angle of 130 to 150 degree. These devices produce stabilization of the femoral head and the neck fragments to the shaft. But there are certain limitations. Here the penetration of the nail into the hip joint is a very important complication. Cut through the superior portion of the femoral head and neck. This led to the need for a device that allowed controlled fracture collapse. Then came dynamic compression class. It is a 2-piece device consisting of a cannulated lag screw that articulates to the side plate and a barrel. The first hole you can see is the lag screw. There is a hole for the lag screw. The plate angles at 125 to 155 degree. What is the principle of this dynamic compression class? It is controlled collapse of the fracture. The fracture will be reduced, that is through controlled collapse mechanism. It's weight bearing device. Mobilization, when you should mobilize the patient only after 6 weeks, and it's only limited. This device is also a limitation, that is you can use it only for the stable fractures. First, before applying the dynamic compression class, we should first do a pre-operative assessment. That is, pre-operative close reduction of the fracture is essential. We should give a gentle longitudinal traction, then externally rotate the limb, followed by internal rotation. The posterior sag requires manual correction using a crutch or a bone hook. What is the point of entry? A guide wire is directed towards with the help of an angle guide externally through the neck in AP and lateral view with 5 mm to 10 mm of the joint line. There is something called as tip apex distance. What should be the distance between the tip and the head of the femur? So that is Baumgartner et al. Devised the concept of tip apex distance. It is the sum of the distance from the tip of the lag screw to the apex of the femoral head in AP and lateral view. His study showed that tip apex distance of 25 meter or less significantly reduces mechanical failure by the lag screw cutout. That is, you can see in the AP and lateral view, that is tip apex distance should be less than 25 mm for a proper fixation. This is the post-op X-ray. You can see the lag screw and the other screws that are cortical screws that are applied here. This is Madoff plates, where two screws are put parallel to each other. In a place of standard femoral side plate, it uses a coupled pair of sliding components that allows fracture to impact parallelly to the long axis of femur. The Madoff plates, the importance is it allows biaxial dynamization. Then there is linear compression class, percutaneous compression plate. You can see there is multiple head fixation present here. Multiple head fixation components controlling rotation and translation but allow linear compression. Rotationally stable plating since the screws are coupled to the plate. This is a hybrid locking class. Proximal femoral locking plates will be used. The device offers maximal stability with initial compression and fixed angle stability from locking screws. Next generation are intermedullary devices. The intermedullary implants are subjected to smaller bending movements than plate screw devices because they are positioned closer to the mechanical axis of femur. This intermedullary device is a 4 type, that is cephalomedullary nail, impaction class, dynamic compression class, reconstruction class and integrated class. This is cephalomedullary device. It consists of an intermedullary nail with 2 proximal and 2 distal screws. The main principle is derotational screw and compression screw. Derotational screw is for rotational stability and compression screw is for intrafragmentary compression. See, you can see the top end, there are 2 screws. The top screw at the first is derotational screw and the second is compression screw. In any fracture, first we put the compression screw, then we put the derotational screw. First compress the fracture segments, then derotational screw to prevent rotation of the foot, lower limb. It is useful for unstable fractures also. That is the importance of using intermedullary device. This is the present modality of treatment. And more important thing is all intermedullary devices are load sharing devices, whereas plates are load bearing devices. And where is the point of entry of this is medial border of graded trochanter. You can see this where we have put a proximal femoral length. There is a compression screw and derotational screw. These are impaction classes, class screws, that is trochanteric fixation nail. It consists of a helical blade design, impaction nail of 11 mm for the femoral head. Surgical technique precludes remaining, thus saving bone stock and prevents instability of the fracture by loose nails. Dynamic compression class, that is gamma nail which is introduced intermedullary. You can see this is a modern new generation screws and plates. Gamma nail consists of large head nail component, that is 15.5 mm to 18 mm with single large lag screw. The first screw is a single large lag screw. Then intramedullary hip screws. It is similar class nail with a sliding sleeve in the barrel to promote dynamic compression. And comes the reconstruction class. You can see there are proximal to and distal screw, but the angle is changed. They have a smaller diameter head with 2 lag screws that are independent of each other. This is integrated class, trochanteric antegrade nailing. Intertrochanteric antegrade nail is titanium alloy nail with a proximal femoral cross section for shaft stability and an integrated screw mechanism that provides for linear compression. There are certain importance of PFN over DHS. We can see that DHS plate and screw device nail, whereas PFN is cephalomedullary. DHS, the principle is controlled collapse, whereas PFN is the rotational stability and compression stability. DHS is less stable and fixation is not much in DHS, whereas in PFN it's more stable. DHS, it is a derotational. There is no there is an option for derotational screw, but in PFN derotational screw is must. Um, in DHS it is used in unstable fractures only, but PFN is used in DHS is used in stable fractures and PFN is used in unstable fractures. Coming to the most recent treatment, that is prosthetic orthoplasties. We can do orthoplasty, that is hemi-orthoplasty or total hip orthoplasty, and it is rarely indicated in intertrochanteric fractures. Uses may be justified in neoplastic fractures, severe osteoporotic diseases, pre-existing arthritis under consideration for hip replacement before the fracture occurred, salvage procedures for failed internal fixation in the geriatric patients. There are certain complications of all these procedures also. That is implant failure, non-union. Why implants fail? Because implant breakage, there are screw get through, periprosthetic fractures, infection. Non-union very rich because very rare because there is a rich blood supply. Thank you.